Right, what cabinet positions am I going to have and how would I select them? Well, actually, I'm not going to rush at that. The reason for that is because there are a couple of papers on the table already about reorganisation. Elizabeth Thrakes has made some recommendations about reorganisation of her commissioners, and we've got to look at that and look at it with her and sit down for a week or two maybe and come to an absolute sensible way, because we need to structure Torbay Council round its clients, not round how we run the council at the moment. We have to be structured to deliver services in the best and most appropriate way.
Okay, so how do I choose a cabinet? Well, my heart is to cease conflict within council, because we've had conflict between party and party which has been damaging to the Bay. And I've seen it for 14 years since I've been down here, whether pre-mayoral system or in the mayoral system. So, if I'm a politically independent candidate, I'm therefore representing the Bay, the cabinet will be picked out of all 36 councillors on the basis of merit and ability within that role compared to a political colour. And what I will aim to do is meet all 36 councillors after they've been elected and go over with them their experience, what they've been involved in, what their passions are, to start to find out which ones would be right for the job.
Question now on the cabinet. How many posts? I'm going to have a larger cabinet. When I started, very small cabinet, finished the last few weeks, very small cabinet again. That doesn't work hugely well. You want to have as much support as you can manage amongst the councillors to get your business through. Hugely important that we not just have economic regeneration portfolio holders, but also someone there making sure the place looks good and clean and tidy, tourism champion that we've had. But the unitary authority, as well as things that people can see, as well as the economic projects, hugely important that we deliver services to the most vulnerable in the community. Adult social care, it's over £40 million, that's becoming a bigger subject as there's budget pressures and we have an older population in the Bay, 10,000 people over 80. Largest percentage, highest percentage in the UK, so it must have a dedicated member for adult social care. Absolutely, the law requires, and it's right to have a dedicated member for children's services. Got a good story to tell of children's services. Most improved schools performance in the southwest, more outstanding schools, but still work to do on children's safeguarding. So it's absolutely right to have somebody dedicated to work with children and young people to ensure that they're safe, to ensure that they have the best outcomes.
I think I'd want to try and organise the cabinet a bit differently. I worry that it's too centralised. It holds a lot of power in that little small circle. So what I'd want to try and do is to make it more inclusive by inviting the other parties, so that there was a representation of all groups within the cabinet, so that you got that kind of cross-section of ideas within the cabinet. I'm not sure I'd have all that many people, because I think it's a bit expensive actually to have too many people in the cabinet. But and I'd want to look at the portfolios for sure. I'm not quite sure the way it's split up at the moment is absolutely right, but clearly regeneration and getting somebody who's got the experience to do that role is crucial. But I think I'd want to do it by trying to share it out amongst the different parties.
I will have a small cabinet, and they will be chosen from councillors who truly represent the electorate of the Bay. I want them to go out and find out, get me information that is up to date and truly represents what the people of Torbay want.
As the newly elected mayor on May the 5th, I will have to form a cabinet. As an independent candidate, I have the pick of the bunch, and at the end of the day I will look at ability, not personalities per se, but those that can prove to me that they can do the job. It's a question of looking at all their attributes, what they've done before, if they've been in cabinet before, if they are newly elected into the council. It won't matter. It is what they can do for you, the voters out there in Torbay. I am adamant that everybody will have to pull their weight and do everything they can to bring Torbay up to where we should be. A destination to be visited and to be applauded through the rest of the country. I intend that Torbay will be a shining example to the rest of the country on how to do it as an independent.
In relation to cabinet positions, I think it's important that we use all of the skills that are available to us. We've got people with backgrounds in law, we've got people with backgrounds in finance, we've got people with experience in building. It's important that we draw on the skill set that we have, rather than saying, are you Conservative, are you a Lib Dem, whatever. What we need to look at is, what is the contribution that people can bring, and we should draw on the best that's available, because the important thing is that which is good for the Bay, not that which is good for individuals.
The selection of a cabinet on successful mayoral election is actually a privilege I'm really looking forward to. The selection of certain statutory offices is obviously mandatory, but above and beyond that, it's incumbent on the elected mayor to choose his cabinet. I certainly think there's room in any cabinet for an expert on biodiversity and carbon reduction here in Torbay, and as I said earlier, making carbon reduction central to policy making is extremely important. I think that the cabinet should not only reflect the views in part of the elected mayor, but also the views of all parties that are elected here in Torbay, and have a really inclusive group, not just of cabinet members, but of what their interests are, and people that are really interested in specific policy areas should be able to air their views, if not standing on the cabinet, but be able to work closely with a cabinet member who they have a lot in common with, and I think that's very important to make the process of government here in Torbay more inclusive.
Cabinet positions, that is something that will have to be resolved after the election. I cannot anticipate what the outcome of that will be. There will be cabinet positions, and one of the most important will be a cabinet position for the big society. There's no European money in grant anymore. It has to come from the UK government. We have to seek out those grants through a major position on the cabinet, of a cabinet seat which is for the big society. We have to look after our children, our elderly, they are priorities, but economy and regeneration are there to make Torbay perform better, and I would take that particular role myself. I'm passionate about it, I have business experience, I've worked here all my life, and I want to see Torbay prosper, and that's one of the major roles I would take.